Hi everybody, Jordan Blotcher here, aka the Sports Card Lawyer, back again with another video. So for this video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about my high stakes pick of the day. This is going to be the video for the people who have over $1,000 to spend on a card and they're looking for a great place to put that $1,000 where they're going to be able to maximize their return and increase their exposure and the value of their collection. So we're going to be talking once again about Tom Brady. If you watched my last video, you're going to know that my mid-stakes buy of the day was also Brady. Well, you're going to be hearing a lot about Tom Brady on this channel, at least for the foreseeable future, because Tom Brady cards are overall an amazing buy. His cards have gone down a lot over the course of this offseason, even though Josh Allen has been, you know, unaffected by the decline in the value of cards. Tom Brady has not been immune to the collapse. And part of that certainly has to do with the market being uneasy and unhappy with the fact that he returned. When Tom Brady announced his retirement, his cards started to creep up. They started to rise. People thought, well, this is the cheapest I'm ever going to be able to get him. Like, his career was amazing, and it's all going to be upward sloping trend lines from here. And then he announced he was coming back. And the market responded very poorly to that, and his cards continued to decline and crash over the course of the offseason. But none of that changes the fact that Tom Brady is a proven player. In the truest sense of the term, proven player, Tom Brady is certainly proven with his 7 Super Bowl wins. And the Buccaneers are going to be in contention this year to win an 8th Super Bowl. And so that has to be on our mind as we think about buying his cards and what the market for his cards looks like. But in addition to just talking about, which one of these cards in which specific grade is, the best use of your money at this point in time if you're looking to spend over $1,000 on a Brady card, we're also going to have an opportunity to talk about how not all grades are created equal, even if we're talking about the same card, which is a very important lesson, and I'm going to be able to use 3 different graphs to explain that concept to you here today. So basically, the card in question for this video series is the Tom Brady 2000 Bowman base. It is a very iconic card. It is not the chrome base. It has the gold Bowman label at the top instead of, the blue Bowman chrome label. If you're looking at buying a hobby box to try to pull this card, you'll notice that it trades considerably cheaper than the Bowman Chrome sealed hobby box because, the Bowman Chrome is a more expensive card. It's considered to be a little bit more desirable overall than the Bowman base. Right now, you'll see this card, the Bowman base, in PSA 10, trading between $7,500 and $8,000, and you'll see the Chrome 10 trading between $12,000 and $13,000. So that one's a little bit more desirable overall, but that does not mean that it is the best buy at this point in time. So we're going to be talking about the Bowman base, and we're going to talk about it in 3 specific grades. We're going to look at BGS 8.5, we're going to look at BGS 9, and we're going to look at PSA 8. And the reason that I picked those 3 grades is because they're relatively similar in price. A BGS 9 is not very different than a BGS 8.5, and a BGS 8.5 is not very different than a PSA 8. You'll see that generally speaking, a BGS 8.5 is going to trade around the same price as the PSA 8. And that's just sort of how the market works for a lot of these cards. Beckett is just considered a little bit less desirable from a resale standpoint than the PSA 8. And so even though the BGS 8.5 might technically be a nicer card, people are willing to pay, a little bit of a premium for the PSA 8. So we generally see that those are going to trade around equivalent prices at the same time. So let's start by talking about the BGS 8.5 here and this graph. So we look at the trend line, we see the trend line is relatively flat. This is the usual business. We have a lot of sales above the trend line, we have a lot of sales below the trend line. You should notice that a lot of the sales that are very below the trend line have happened during this off season. And that's because of what I mentioned. The market has been very destable. There's concerns about a recession, and also because it was the off season, people have been converting their football cards into basketball cards or baseball cards. People don't have thousands of dollars lying around to, purchase a basketball card while keeping their football collection intact. And so people start to liquidate their football in order to buy other things. And so we see football go down over the off season. It makes a lot of sense from a market mechanism standpoint. So relatively flat trend line. The card, was a great buy at one point in time. In late May, this card was $1,200 with a trend line of what looks like around $1,600. So at that point in time, you could have bought the card at 75% of its trend line, but those days are long gone. At least that's what it looks like right now, because the two most recent sales of this card are $1,500. And that was at the end of July, and the trend line on this card is $1,600. So what that means is that the BGS 8.5 Bowman base is not the best use of your money right now if you need to pay $1,500 to get it, because we expect that when the card regresses towards its mean, it's going to go up to $1,600, but that is only a $100 increase in value. If we do a little bit of quick math here and we do 1,500 divided by 1,600 and multiply that by 100, we'll see that the card is trading at 94% of its trend line. That is not a great buy. We're not going to be able to realize a very large gain on our investment in the short, medium, or 1-year term when the card trades at 94% of its year-long trend line. So that is not a great buy. Well, let's take a look at the PSA 8. The PSA 8 looks a lot better on the surface. It has most recently sold at $11.50. It has a similar shaped trend line to the BGS 8.5 that we just looked at. Its last sale is $11.50, and its trend line is right around $1,500. So if we were to do the same math, we would do $11.50 divided by 1,500. This one is trading at 77% of its trend line, which is way better than the 96% trend line that we just looked at. It's the same card in a different grade, but if we were to buy this one instead of the BGS 8.5, we would expect to have an opportunity to make 19% more on our investment than if we were to have bought the BGS 8.5, because when the PSA 8 trends back towards its mean and recovers inevitably to near this trend line or above this trend line or somewhere in the vicinity of the trend line, we're going to have an opportunity to make much more percentage-wise on our investment than we would have made if we had bought the BGS 8.5. So at 76%, the PSA 8 certainly has our attention. But now let's take a look at the BGS 9. If we look at the BGS 9 here over the course of a year, this trend line is actually slightly upward sloping, which is interesting because the other two cards are not upward sloping. But again, we see that it has been in this off season, this card has been trading way below its trend line. I mean, we have a bottomed out price here of $12.50 on the BGS 9. We have a trend line that is around $2,400, about $2,450 actually. So if you bought this card at $12.50 with a $2,450 year-long trend line, congratulations to you. You're probably going to make around a 100% return on investment on this card, and that is absolutely incredible. Obviously, if you're able to invest $1,200 and generate 100% return, you're really crushing the sports card game. And so that was the bottom of the market here, but it still hasn't even come close to fully recovering to the trend line. The last sale 2 weeks ago was at $1,700, and the trend line is $2,450. So if we do our quick math again, 1725 divided by 2450, you'll see that this card is trading at 70% in this grade, 70% of its trend line. So even though the 76% that the PSA 8 was trading at is a great investment, it's still not as good of an investment as the BGS 9. So if you were looking for the best use of your money over $1,000 today, I would have to recommend the BGS 9. You should be able to make at least a 20% return on this investment if you were to look to sell, and if you're looking to trade, you should be able to make 30 to 35% when the market recovers and this card trends towards its mean and recovers back to its trend line. So that has been my high stakes pick of the day. Leave me a like, drop me a comment. I love constructive debate, and I'm excited to be sharing my picks with you guys. Have a great day, everyone.